Hello, hello. Welcome to the Anima Collective's Moon Report. I am filling in for our resident astrologer, Marlene. I'm Ilona Pamplona, if you don't know me, because here we get a lot of new juicy members through all different sorts of areas, and very excited to be here for you. If you don't know me, I'm the Postmodern Oracle. I am a life coach, an astrology and human design educator, and I'm just obsessed with this work. I totally geek out with a lot of the members in the community on astrology and human design and all things woo-woo. And today we will be talking about the new moon in Scorpio. And being the nerd that I am, because I love being a nerd, I have like legitimately like 40 to 50 books on astrology. Some of them are like vintage, like from decades ago. And I thought it would be cool to set us up with some language to think about this season with. And I last year I stumbled upon this book while on a trip to Joshua Tree. And it is really cool. If you can get your hands on this book, I highly recommend it because the way this woman speaks about astrology, I am obsessed. She's kind of like, I'm like, wait, she's kind of like me, where she just tells it like it is. So it's called The Secrets from a Stargazer's Notebook, Making Astrology Work for You by Debbie Kempton Smith. Sadly, I researched her and I found out she passed away a few years ago. Very bummed because I would have totally taken her for a lunch. But, when we talk about astrology, sometimes astrologers will go right into the jargon. They'll go right into this is sextile this and trying that, or the new moon is happening in this degree. And you're like, what does this all mean? And I thought it would be really important to ground us with what Scorpio represents, right? So we all know that the new moon is a beginning cycle phase, but some of us don't know the depth, all that Scorpio can bring us. And what I loved about what she said, so first of all, she goes, if you look at Scorpio's symbol, it looks like Virgo with a telling difference. Scorpio sticks her tail right out and wiggles it at you. People don't understand Scorpios, and Scorpios like it that way. But this is the part that I thought everyone needed to hear, right? Like this idea of the moons are in cycle, astrology works in cycles, our life works in cycles. And Scorpio has these very specific cycles associated with the animal symbols, which I don't think people always remember. And um, so Scorpio glides amongst three spiritual levels: the scorpion, the eagle, and the dove. So the Scorpio gets revenge. It enjoys being in the muck. It will revel in the vulgar and the snarky. They shoplift and want to mess around with your wife. No one rationalizes actions better than this type. Their eyes are so mud covered, they don't see the big picture. So that's kind of like the shadow of Scorpio. Then we've got like the middle ground of Scorpio, which is the eagle. So the eagle wants to protect her loved ones. She won't pounce unless it's necessary. She's proud and independent, and she won't be told what to do. America uses the eagle as a symbol. Don't tread on me. That kind of energy. And so then the dove is the what we would call the exaltation of the sign, right? The dove type too wants power, but here the power to control one's own desires. Doves practice the principle of ahimsa, the harmlessness. The one of the philosophers, Ram Dass's teachers, wrote on a slate, "Snake knows your heart. The harmless yogi, a man of peace, need not fear life in the jungle, for all creatures, since he has no harm to any living being." So Scorpio is often seen as the dark, the shadow, being in this predatory, very occult and hidden nature. But there are levels to that energy that Scorpio brings to this new moon, right? And then what I found even more fascinating as I lean into the camera, because it is just so juicy, is that the gate of human design and gene keys that is associated with this specific new moon's degree is called embracing death. And the levels of the symbolism of the energy of this particular Scorpio new moon is very similar to these archetypes of Scorpio. In the three levels, we have purposelessness, totality, and immortality. And so the shadow of the gate of the Scorpio new moon, this purposelessness, is this fear of this. It's just fear. It's just a fear state, right? Like always having to protect, always having to attack. This fear, this feeling of being lost, this feeling of not having purpose. And so I'd be curious on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being, "I feel amazing," to 10 being like, "This is really an intense season." Anyone who's here, feel free to drop in the chat where you are. Is it 1, very light and fluffy, or is it like 10, like, "It is full on very intense for me in this season?" Because if depending on where you're in the scale, it's gonna tell us where you're navigating the energy of this particular gate. So we have it. So this gate in general, the Scorpio energy is related to this gate. Okay, we've got 8, we've got 6, 5 was most of the week, but feeling better this morning. Amazing. 8. So we're in the higher levels, right? We're in this, like, I'm feeling this very intensely, and I'm not surprised because of what this cycle represents. Scorpio is dense emotions, right? Let's talk about also Scorpio is a water sign, emotions, but it's fixed, which means very, like, immovable. Like, it's going to feel what it's feel, but there's a part of it that doesn't want to show you what it's feeling. I always joke that the feelings of Scorpio is like, you really want to cry, but you're going to wait until everyone leaves, and then you're going to sit in the shower with your clothes on and letting the makeup run down your face. It's kind of that type of intensity of emotion. And so this new moon brings emotional intensity. It will bring up primarily fears, everybody. The fears are going to be high. The fears are being highlighted, and the fears are being highlighted primarily to get us into the gift of this cycle. So the gift of this cycle, according to Gene Keys and Human Design, is the sense of totality. And what this means is, y'all, the struggle has a purpose. The challenge is showing us something. We are, like, anything that's difficult is highlighting what we get to work on, where we get to really shift the perspective of what we're experiencing in every way. Like, everything has a purpose. So we move out of, like, nothing matters. The core base energy of this gate in Scorpio is like, what doesn't even matter? Like, who cares? We're all going to die anyway. Why does it even matter? And we get to move into, it all matters. It all serves us. And so, whether you're watching it here live or watching it on the replay, I want you to take a moment and I want you to ask yourself, what fears are present for you in this moment? Now, if we're going to deepen, if some of you are like, I don't know, I know I just feel fear, I don't know where it could be. This is where astrology and the houses and knowing your risings can come into a beautiful conversation, right? Because all of the houses are themes, and wherever Scorpio is falling in your chart can give us a glimpse of to what fears you may be facing, or where you get to see the totality, where you get to see that struggles in this specific theme are serving you. So, for example, if you've got Scorpio in the first house, you may have fears around your appearance, because the first house is yourself, how you look. Like, oh my gosh, like, I don't, maybe you don't feel comfortable in your physical self. Maybe there are parts of yourself that you haven't been looking at, and it's going to bring up fears, but it is a fear of the self. Whereas if you have Scorpio in the second house, you might be experiencing fears of money, because that's and specifically of how you're going to make money. Because the eighth house is how other people's money. The second house specifically is, how do I provide? How do I make money for myself? How am I going to make this happen? Right. And so it could be your own personal financial security that the second house Scorpio fears will bring up. If you have the third house is primarily the way you think. Your mind can just be running loops on fears, right? Like, you might just be running in a mental fear state, which also is interesting, right? Because it's a mental state. So if you have a third house Scorpio right now and fears are coming up, really, this is a very important time to really examine, what are you thinking? Where are these thoughts coming from? Fourth house, family. Ooh, anyone with the fourth house Scorpio right now, what fears do your family, and relating to them and interacting with them, what does that bring up for you? What fears is that bringing to your conscious self, so that you can work through it, because it's serving you a purpose, right? The fifth house is our creativity, our passions, and your authentic voice. Are you afraid to say what you really got to say? The sixth house is health. You might have some health fears. It also could be your 9 to 5 job, that kind of routine fear. Seventh house is relationship, marriage. Eighth house is the house of Scorpio. It's death and transformation and things having to change. Ninth house is fears of what you know, your wisdom, like fear of not knowing enough, fear of not knowing that you know enough, or that you what you have is not enough. And always, with when we have ninth house placements or people with heavy ninth house placements, this is where we have our certificate junkies, right? And so knowing that you have enough. 10th house, I have a 10th house Scorpio right now. Career, your reputation. Do you fear what you're known for? Are you ready to step up? Yeah. Are you ready to step up and be seen for what you're here to do? Step into that purpose. 11th house, your friends, communities. Like, are you afraid of, really being in the groups and the circles and the places that get to see you and get the gift of who you are? And the 12th house is creativity and spirituality. So those are going to be hints if you don't know where your Scorpio placement falls. But I want to kind of then also talk about how when we move out of this fear, we really can see that everything serves us. Then we move into the siddhi, or the exaltation of this gate and this moment of Scorpio, this new moon, which is totality. And so when we get to totality, we realize, immortality, pardon, the gift is totality, and the exaltation is immortality. We lose the fear. We actually move out of the fear. When we can see that everything serves a purpose, then we stop fearing. And so I want everyone, live or in the replay, you get to see that everything in your life is serving a purpose and everything gets to be looked at. And so this is a moment, if you have not confronted your fears, where you get to look at it. This is a moment to everything that scares you, everything that seems hard, everything that seems icky. Instead of doing your flight or fight response and running away or hiding or fighting it, you just get to take a moment and you get to pause and you get to look at it and you get to observe it with Lillian's. I won't actually with what I was going to reveal your word of the year, but I don't know if we're going to do that. But anyway, we get to look at everything with curiosity, right? We get to look at everything with, how can I see this in a different way? We get to shift perspectives in everything that you fear and everything that's confronting you in this cycle. It is time to literally have a new this new moon is an opportunity to have a new relationship with endings, a new relationship with fear, a new relationship with everything that confronts us. Because here's the truth, everybody. What did I say before? We started this with this idea that everything exists in cycles, right? And so guess what? Anything you fear will always come up. It will come back over and over and over again. Your fears are never going to go away. What our job in this lifetime is to have a new relationship with how we experience those fears. And this is what this new moon is bringing up. It's hashing out. It's going to make you feel your feels because it's a water sign. But the job is to say, how can I see you in a different way? How can I look at you differently? How can I see your role in my life? This gate, this Scorpio gate, this is part of the channel of struggle, which I happen to have. You have that too? I have the channel of struggle. And the channel of struggle, the first time I heard that, I was like, well, that sounds horrible. Like, I hate having this channel. And recently I was gifted a new way of looking at it. And the way it's reimagined is, it is the gift of optimism and fighting spirit. And so perhaps that's one way that I can offer you to be able to look at fear in the face, right? It's, first of all, you get to have hope that just because this feels icky in the moment, that it's not going to feel icky forever. And to give yourself a fighting chance to get through whatever that fear is in the way of. Because I will tell you something, that fear is in the way of something. So first question that I asked you before is, what fears are present for you in the moment? And the second question I would ask you if you're watching now in the replay is, what is that fear getting in the way of, y'all? What is that fear getting in the way of? Because I will promise you, it's getting in the way of something that really matters to you. And ultimately, the homework here is, will you look fear in this, the fear of death, the fear of whatever, the fear of money, the fear of whatever, and look in the face and throw yourself at it? Or will you continue to repeat the cycle? Because that's all this is. We're going to have another new moon next year and another new moon next year. And this will not end until you look at it. And by the way, alchemize the fear using the word of the month. That's right. Are we going to use it? Are we going to capitalize on the word of the month? Because here's the other thing. This is not about taking risks. This is not about being risky. This is not about like putting yourself at the edge of death and danger. This is about, can you calculate and observe and know exactly what you need to do to be able to look at this face and change the dynamic. Now, something else that comes up is it's also kind of a sticky season because we've got like 5 planets in retrograde. I don't call the North Node as one of the retrograde planets because it's always in retrograde. But we've got Chiron, the wounded healer, retrograde in Aries, the self. We've got Neptune, our dreams, but also where we self sabotage in Pisces. It's the planet, I mean, the sign it rules. We've got Uranus, retrograde in Taurus, which is like, the stability. There's a lot of like things that might make us feel unstable here and there throughout the cycle. We've got Saturn retrograde in Pisces. We got a lot of Pisces retrograde. And we've got Jupiter, the planet of expansion and fortune, is retrograde right now, especially in Gemini, in our words. So we got a lot of sticky energy. This cycle is going to be sticky in a lot of different planets. And this moon is saying, yeah, it's sticky. And what? Can you do it? Are you going to do it anyway? Are you going to face the fear? Are you going to live the life that you want? Are you actually going to transform the sense of purposelessness into sense of purpose? What action can you take from this awareness would be my final question to you, right? We create a lot of awareness in a lot of these groups and coaching and in books and self-help experiences. But the next step, what this new moon is also saying is, don't just feel your feels. Don't just see what's not working. What action can you take? What can you alchemize? Like Catherine said, what can you alchemize, which would require you to do something differently? And so I really want all of us to realize that, yeah, it's easy. It's easy to be like, life sucks, the politics sucks, this experience sucks, my family sucks. Like, it's easy. It's easy to just see what's not working. But the gift here is to really say, okay, well, what is it teaching me and what can I do next? It gets to be that simple. It gets to be that simple. Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about this particular gate, but I think this new moon is that simple. It's dark energy, it's shadowy energy, it's hidden. You're going to have blind spots that you're not aware of. But this is the moment. Actually, I'd probably want to close with, I also have the Chani Nicholas book. And the thing about a moon in Scorpio is, if you're not aware, some planets like to be in specific signs. They don't like to be in other signs. The moon doesn't like to be in Scorpio. It's what we call fall. And so, because the moon seeks comfort. So she says the moon seeks comfort, stability, security. It likes to be in a sign that facilitates a sense of grounding. Scorpio yawns at such simplicity. Scorpio doesn't want things to be simple. Scorpio likes to mess things up and have a little bit of fun and show you what's not working. And so some of the reflective questions that she asks for this cycle is, what helps you process your more intense emotions? How do you need to maintain control to impede your ability to do so? Are intense emotional experience part of how you live out your life's purpose? Like, maybe this is kind of me, like the channel of struggle. Like, part of me is like, oh yeah, part of me needs something intense to shake me into action. Some of y'all there want ease, but it's not ease that's going to get you to the other side of where you are. Some of us do. God bless y'all. Congratulations. You won the astrological lottery. But some of us literally need that kick in the butt to say, okay, now it's time to do something. I'm out of my comfort, push you out of the comfort. And the last question is, did you have a parent or caregiver who had a especially difficult time, who was dishonored or disrespected in some way? Because often the moon is associated with that nurturing cycle of our lives. So I hope this supports. I know these are difficult, everything that feels unclear, right? These are unclear times. And all of us are learning from this. This is serving all of us in one way or another. And until you look at it, you observe it, unpack it, and do something different, we'll just come back to you will have the same conversation this time next year. My hope is that you actually transform, shift, alchemize, turn that regular rock into gold so that you can show us what that new relationship looks like. I wish you all a very transformative new moon. I'm not going to say happy because this isn't happy light energy, but it's juicy. I love the juicy energy. And I think we all deserve an opportunity to shift our perspectives. So until the next time, I'm wishing you the best. If you are new here, by the way, don't forget that you can be part of these conversations every month. You can join the Anima Collective. Details will be in the notes. Have a wonderful, wonderful new moon cycle, everyone.